On January 6th, our country faced the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War, when a violent pro-Trump mob stormed the United States Capitol, resulting in the death of 5 individuals. This day will forever be remembered as a dark day for our country. The attack on our nation's capital was an attack on our democracy, our Congress, and our residents. The Confederate flag breached the U.S. Capitol, something that never happened during the Civil War. With law enforcement vastly outnumbered on the Capitol grounds, officers from the Montgomery County Police Department answered the call. Without hesitation, our MCPD officers bravely responded to the crisis to restore peaceful operations and ensure the safety of our congressional leaders. Today, we are privileged to be joined by those MCPD officers who bravely responded to the crisis and helped preserve our democracy on that horrible day. The selflessness with which they act every day, their willingness to put their lives on the line could not have been more apparent than it was on January 6th. I'm honored to recognize each and every one of these officers for their efforts, not just on January 6th, but for every day. Gentlemen, welcome. Thank you for joining us. Chief Jones. Oh, I'm sorry. Councilmember Albornoz.
Thank you, Mr. President. Let me just begin by expressing my condolences to the Katz family and Sally for their terrible loss. Our hearts are with them, and we are certainly praying for them. January 6th was such a dark day. The images that we saw subsequent to that day are ingrained in my mind. As Americans, we all recognize the tragedy of that day, but as Washingtonians, it cut even deeper to see monuments that we revere and that we all as Washingtonians have some level of responsibility to protect that goes beyond your average citizen in the United States. Although that day was dark and tragic and overwhelming, there were 2 specific areas that gave me a great deal of hope. And first was the tremendous response of our first responders. The way that they joined together across our entire region to protect and serve not just all of us individually, but on that day, our very democracy was truly inspirational. They were spit on, they were abused, there were racial epithets that were charged against our officers of color that day. A Montgomery County police officer was struck in the head and received a concussion. And I know that the ramifications of that day still run deep for all those that participated. This is a difficult job on a good day, but that day was truly unprecedented. The second thing that gave me hope that day was that democracy forged ahead, and our congressional and federal representatives continued to go about the business of that democracy. And so I was truly inspired by the heroic efforts of our Montgomery County Police Department, as they do every day, try to step forward and protect and serve our entire community. And again, on that day, our very democracy. So thank you for your leadership on that day and every day. And with that, I turn it over to you to Chief Jones to say a few words as well.
Thank you. Thank you. And good morning to Council President Hucker and Council Vice President Albornoz. And I also, from the Montgomery County Police family, also extend our deepest sympathies to the Katz family, to Sydney and Sally on the loss of her father. So I don't know. Can you all hear me?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Okay. So thank you. So again, thank you all for recognizing what I deem true heroes on January 6th. It was amazing that we would be called to such an event. We had already been notified by the Metropolitan Police Department prior to January 6th by Acting Chief Conti, who wanted us to come down to work with them as partners in order to keep the District of Columbia safe during that week due to the basically unforeseen, but we were prepared for other events that were going to possibly occur within the city. And on that very day, I've never been so proud of our men and women who responded down on January 6th. Led by our special events response team here. I think joining me today is Lieutenant Peter Davidoff, who has been one of our primary experts on special events response team activities and how we handle protest and violent encounters. And on that day, it was truly a day of a violent encounter that those officers, without hesitation, were one of the first teams able to respond to assist the Capitol Hill Police that day, U.S. Capitol Police, as well as the Metropolitan Police Department, in order to keep our democracy and to keep that institution and the folks who worked and are dedicated at the Capitol to keep them safe. And I must report out that it's unfortunate that we still have the officer who, the executive officer who actually sustained the concussion, is still out of work today and still is suffering from his injuries. And we're still praying for his recovery. But this is when, again, we never know when we're put on the front lines. But I want to thank the council today for recognizing the officers who stood in front of trouble and they went to the trouble in order to secure the Capitol. And thank you so much for recognizing that heroic act on that particular day.
Thank you so much, Chief. Lieutenant Davidov, Lieutenant Clark, do you have anything to add, or should we read the proclamation?
Thank the Chief from the Special Operations Divisions. Thank the Chief for his remarks and the council as well. And I think you're probably better off with the proclamation rather than me speaking.
Okay, thank you so much. And I'll note that each of the officers involved received a separate certificate of thanks from the council. So, Council Vice President, if you're ready, I'll begin. Proclamation of the Montgomery County Council. Whereas on January 6, 2021, our country experienced an unprecedented attack when the United States Capitol was stormed during a riot and violent attack against the United States Congress. This insurrection endangered our democracy, our nation, and our residents nationwide, as well as here in Montgomery County. And
whereas the proximity of our jurisdiction to our nation's capital both requires and enables mutual aid at critical junctures, and
whereas during the insurrection, officers who risked their own safety from the Montgomery County Police Department were requested to assist other law enforcement officers in and around the United States Capitol building. And
whereas we are grateful to our law enforcement personnel who responded without hesitation to restore peaceful operations and ensure the safety of our congressional leaders and our neighbors in Washington, D.C., all while encountering damage to property, extensive vandalism, and dangerous physical attacks.
Now, therefore, be it resolved that the County Council of Montgomery County, Maryland, hereby extends its deep gratitude and appreciation to those who risk their own safety as members of the Montgomery County Police Department to help preserve our democracy and our nation's capital on January 6th, 2021. And furthermore, let it be known that their bravery and selflessness is commended. Presented on this 4th day of May in the year 2021, signed by Councilmember Katz and myself. Congratulations and thank you,